minutes today. Of course, it went over 5 minutes because I started enjoying it. But that's it. It's too hot, South Florida. Already, end of December, end of October. But it's too hot to continue. I just finished that 1 cup of water that I had with me. So I need to get the water. But the point is, I tried to combine last 2 days what I was focusing on, and I think I did that pretty good progress. But of course, it's not enough. You should always be satisfied with what you do. Really, you never get disappointed by what you do, but be encouraged. But at the same time, never be satisfied for what you do, because you can always improve. There is no final moment or final product, so to speak, in lifetime. Maybe go, over the lifetime, one lifetime, but who knows? But you always can improve, and for that reason, you gotta start, because you cannot be perfect anyway. Why don't you start? Because that way you can a step ahead of you who didn't take that step. You know what I often hear? I want to learn Spanish too. And that's great. That's what I say. But oftentimes I think, I would also say, like, why don't you start it? Because you didn't say, I started learning Spanish. You didn't say that. You said you want to learn the Spanish too. My question is, why don't you start it? And I'm not trying to offend anyone by by any ways, because I probably was in the same situation. I said I wanted to learn, but I didn't. But you know what happened to me? Something got hit so hard to me that I woke up. And you know what I did? I at the time I was in the Tokyo airport in Tokyo. I was returning to the United States. But what I did was I went to the bookstore in the airport right away, immediately. And for sure enough, I grabbed, there was a Spanish learning book, and I bought it. And do you know what I did? I had 12 hours flight on the way to the United States. So I read it. I read it thoroughly many times. And that led me, whole sequence, good sequence. But the question is, I think oftentimes we have the filter, like on our brain, through, in front of our eyes. So what's so clear becomes so blurry. And if we're not be careful, it's gonna get even blurrier. And sometimes, you can take it away. I got hit by something, and, I woke up. I took away of the filter, and it was so clear what I needed to do. So I went to the bookstore. That's what all about. And so I think the filter is something that I said. And basically, I think, but why don't you start it? Because if you don't start it, there is no way that you get even closer to what you want, or what you said what you want. So why don't you start it? And then information is anywhere, everywhere. If you decided to learn Spanish, grab something. And oftentimes people seek the perfect method, or the most, the package that this will get you. But nothing's gonna happen that way. You have to grab whatever is available there. And that's a great start, because now you are a step closer to where you want to be. And that's what is something about human brain. And I think, like I said, I'm not to offend anybody, but because this is how our brain works. So when I grabbed the book and I read it, And one thing the book told me was great. The book itself was great, explaining everything about grammar in Spanish, and it even came with a CD so that I could listen to a native pronunciation of the Spanish language, right? Both in the land of Spain, in Europe, and also South America, right? Like a Latin version of Spanish, so which was great. And but one thing that said was, and this was said in Japanese, but I'm trying to do my best translation, but those who conquer the verbs conquer the Spanish. So it was saying the verb is so important. So you know what I did? I just went online after I came back to the United States, and searched the resource, and I found, for sure enough, I found the resources for verb conjugation, verbs and verb conjugations. So I printed everything that they have. I mean, I couldn't print everything, but the print out was this thick. I had to buy the biggest clip to have it, as a binder. And so that's what I did, and I carried it everywhere I go and use my 5 minutes. Whenever I find, I looked at it, and I put the lines and marks so that it my brain engaged the learning process better. But why don't you start it? Because I want to hear that you started it and you are so excited. I don't want to hear you saying that you want to learn Spanish too, which means you didn't start it. So like, the information is everywhere, so just grab it, and then that really, it's really filter. Once filter is out, things will be so clear that you can move forward. It's really that simple. The beginning is that simple, and then once you start, it's actually not just, you don't feel like one step ahead. You will feel so much, jumping ahead when you take that action. So it's super important to take an action, to start something, because that's something that everybody needs if you ever desire acquire the Spanish language skill. I'm using my 5 minutes today. Actually, today is weekend, part of weekend, so I can be more flexible to find maybe not 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But actually, usually what happened to me is that weekend is actually weekend is flexible, but there are so many things to do, so it's really hard to commit your 5 minutes, right? But since I started this experiment, I'm gonna definitely find my 5 minutes and do it. Today I want to focus on the combination of the steps and body movement. I really want to make it clear steps clearer, sharp, but it's not too big, so I have a better control. And as far as body movement, upper body movement, I want to accentuate as much as possible, but to the level that it still looks natural. So that's what I'm gonna try to combine, the day before yesterday and yesterday's effort somewhat together. And of course, there's it's not like there are only two aspects, but these are the good stuff. Here's what I think. all the presidents of the United States, all the prime minister of Japan, all the prime minister of, Great Britain, England, or Great Britain, whatever. No one become president or prime minister without deciding to become one. I don't think no one president became a president and said, oh, I just happened to become president. They decided, they believed that they become a president of the United States, and they believe that they would. And that's why they are the president of the United States, or prime minister of Japan, or prime minister of the Great Britain. And that's it. That's all what it is. And the rest, and it applies to everything. It just, we need to believe, because if we believe, for example, that I can't do this move, the body will act that as if it is impossible. So therefore, it becomes impossible. But if you believe that you can, and see what happens. People who speak 7 languages, I think they all have always great feeling, right? You gotta feel great all the time. Nothing can stop you if you're great. Feeling great.